Hey, what's going on, guys? Chad here with Greenlight Shooting, and welcome to this new top list video. So today we're out here in Murray, Utah at TNT Guns and Range, one of my very favorite ranges to be at. They always take care of me here. They are fantastic. Their staff is on point, their selection's on point, and of course the facilities here are they're unmatched, man. If you're local, stop in, say what's up to them, tell them I sent you. If you're not, check out their website. All that information is down in the video description below. Before we dive in, I do want to also let you know that this video is sponsored by Vikings War of Clans. Now, if I'm gonna do a sponsored video, I'm not just gonna sit here and talk to the camera, so we put together something fun for you. So I'll show that later in the video. But for now, let's just dive into this video. We're talking about the top 3 best 22 LR handguns. And to preface, this is not a video about the validity of 22 LR in concealed carry or anything like that. That's for another video. This is purely talking about the validity of the handguns themselves. So let's dive in. All right, so our first option coming in at number 3 is the Ruger SR22. This is honestly one of my favorite handguns. This one is my personal gun. Like, I own this thing. Oh, it's actually my wife's, but she loves this gun and I love shooting it. So it's a fantastic first option. A couple tech specs about the gun itself. It's got a 3.5-inch barrel, and it does have a pretty full grip. You can see it's got a little pinky extension on the mags, and so it gives you a good positive full grip on the thing. And it's a good size. It's a good size for concealed carry. It's a good size for a first handgun. It's a good size for the range. It still feels like you're shooting something substantial. Now, a couple things about it that I really like. Number one is the grip. You can see how ergonomic this grip is. I mean, just holding on to it, it's got a little bit of that palm swell on both sides over here as well as the back. One other thing I like about it is, first of all, it's rubber. On the bottom, you can see how it's got this contour right here. It's really rounded. That's gonna help a ton with concealed carry. You know, when you've got this thing sticking up, you know, you're wearing it at 5 o'clock behind your back or something like that, it's not going to print near as much on your shirt. This thing does hold 10 rounds in the magazine, and the magazine is really easy to manipulate. A lot of these 22 handguns have this sort of function where you can kind of pull down right here on this feeder and load in rounds easily. This one is one of the easiest to actually maneuver. Some of them are really difficult. They pinch your fingers. It's kind of a nightmare. But I really, really like this one. This one holds 10 rounds, like I said, and it does have that pinky extension at the bottom. I believe the gun comes with 2 mags. Up on the slide here, we do have serrations on the front and the back. The slide is really easy to maneuver, by the way. That was one thing that, you know, my wife, when she was learning to shoot, the whole semi-auto slide thing is a little bit hard to get used to. You know, some of the bigger guns, the slides are really hard to manipulate. That's one of the reasons she really liked this. When you're learning on semi-autos, the slide can be intimidating, and this one makes it really easy to not necessarily be afraid of. It's easy to get your fundamentals down on. Another thing she really, really likes about this gun is the fact that it's so safe, right? So you've got an external safety on both sides. It is ambidextrous. It shows you clearly when it's on fire and safe. You can see that red means it's on fire. As soon as I pull that down, I am now on safe. And then in addition to the manual safety, there is the trigger. I mean, the trigger is double and single action. Now, if you're not familiar with it, a really quick overview essentially is that the double action trigger pull when this hammer is forward means that this trigger is going to require a lot of force before it'll actually fire. After that first pull, it's going to be then on single action where this hammer is already back, and you can see that the trigger only requires a very, very light, crisp pull to pull through. The single action is great because it allows you to get back on target, to hit follow-up shots, and to hit bullseye shots in the range much easier and much more accurately. The double action is a great safety feature because, like I said, it requires so much force that trigger is not going to get pulled accidentally. So say that you load this magazine up, you rack around into the chamber, and now you want to holster it, you want to conceal it, but you're a little worried about that trigger. So once you pull this safety on right here, not only is it on safe, but it's also acting as a decocker, so it's taking it back to that double action trigger pull. So even while it's on safe, you know, nothing's firing with that trigger, and then as soon as you take it off of safe, you've still got that really hard double action pull, meaning it's not going to accidentally fire. Like, it needs to be an intentional pull, right, to set this thing off. So very, very safe. That's a huge selling point with this. There is also this Picatinny rail up front, meaning you can attach lights, lasers, whatever kind of accessories that you want on this gun. The sights up top are adjustable, and field stripping it is extremely easy. Drop that mag, pull this back, and there is this little safety lever. Open that up, and then you just take the slide up and over the barrel. Super simple to keep clean, to keep maintained, and it's just an overall great gun to learn your fundamentals on. Now, price-wise, we are at, I think MSRP is like $439 on this. Right now, TNT has this gun listed for $360. You can also get a version with a threaded barrel for $390. So yeah, that is our first option. That is the Ruger SR22, a fantastic handgun. Now, as I mentioned, this video is sponsored by Vikings War of Clans, so big shout out to them. We put something together fun for it, so I hope you enjoy it. Check it out right now.
Let's go attack this.
All right, let's do this.
Oh, hey guys. As I said, this video is sponsored by Vikings War of Clans, and if I'm gonna do a sponsored video, I'm not gonna just sit and talk to the camera. So I hope you enjoyed that little skit we put together, about letting your inner Viking out when you play this game. It gives you a little bit of a rush. This game was inspired by the old strategy RPG games of the 90s. You know what I'm talking about? Baldur's Gate, the old Diablo, things like that. I grew up with those games. I played those a ton, and you don't see them around too often. So these guys are doing it right. So as I mentioned, it is a mobile game on your phone, and what makes the Viking world so addictive is that more than 20 million online players are constantly changing the way the game evolves by never-ending fighting over resources, forging new alliances, and even competing in live events. So help support my channel by downloading Vikings for free, only from my links in the description box below, and get the special bonus of 200 gold coins and a protective shield. And don't forget to look me up and join my Vikings clan under my nickname GLShooting. All right, coming in at number 2 is the Smith & Wesson MP22 Compact. I'm a huge fan of this gun, and I'm a huge fan of the M&P line in general. If you've watched the channel, you know that. The reason that I like this gun so much, especially for like a first-time shooter, a first-time gun owner, is because you can learn your fundamentals extremely well, easily on this gun. It's super easy to maneuver, it's super easy to shoot, but then making the transition over to a full-size M&P is that much simpler, right? It's the same platform. You're not learning on this separate gun of a 22 and then having to relearn when you step up to bigger calibers. This thing, you can learn all your fundamentals, and then that transition is super simple. So, huge fan of this gun. Let's get into it a little bit. Again, we've got a 3.5-inch barrel here. I don't know if I mentioned, but this is just a scaled down version of the full-size M&P. So it's almost identical, it's just a little bit smaller. So 3.5-inch barrel. On the grip here, we do sort of still have that palm swell that you see in the bigger ones. It's not quite as pronounced, but it's definitely there. The grip feels good. It fills up your full hand really easily. And yeah, I will say that the back grip is fixed. It's not adjustable. You can't switch them out. We can hold 10 rounds in this thing. And like I was saying with the SR22, you do have this option to load rounds easily. It doesn't have that lip that the SR22 has, so it's not quite as intuitive, but the spring is still pretty easy to maneuver. It's not too tight. We do have that Picatinny rail up front once again, so you can throw on lights, lasers, whatever you want to do. And we have an ambidextrous safety on the back here, so on both sides you can flip that up to be on safe and down to be on fire. You don't really have that visual indicator of red means fire or anything like that, but again, you don't on the full size, you know what I mean? It's training you for the full size version of this, which I love. It's got serrations on the back of the slide here. Once again, the slide is really easy to maneuver, so learn your fundamentals on this thing. The sights here do have a little bit of adjustment on the back. I really like the trigger on this gun, probably because I'm so familiar with the other M&P pistols, but it's got the same style of trigger pull as those other guns, so it's really easy to get familiar with. You do have a little bit of a trigger safety on there, but yeah, it's just a striker-fired pistol, meaning that as soon as you pull this back to that wall and it breaks, it's going to be that same pull every single time. It's really easy to get used to. Once you feel that trigger pull will transition over to the larger scale guns. Breaking it down for cleaning and field stripping is extremely easy. Lock that slide back, make sure your safety's off, pull the breakdown lever, and then you're just going to lift that slide up and over the barrel. So super simple to take care of. This would be my choice to start someone who wants to get into shooting but doesn't really want to dive straight into 9 or 380 or anything like that. I would absolutely recommend this all day long, and for the price, it's hard to beat. This thing is coming in at $350 here at TNT Guns. I want to say MSRP is like $390-ish, something like that. So yeah, for 350 bucks, a fantastic training ground gun to transition to move forward with. So coming in at number 1 on the list today, we've got the Ruger Mark IV. This one specifically is the light edition. There are a couple different versions of this, but all of the Ruger Mark IVs are really a good choice. Now, the reason I have this on the number 1 option, but I said I kind of liked the Smith & Wesson M&P a little bit more, is because I think this gun is better for people who are experienced shooters. You already own multiple guns and you want a 22 to plink around with, to go target shooting with. I think this is a fantastic option. If you're a first-time shooter wanting to get into concealed carry and stuff like that, I still think the M&P is a little bit better option for you. Some things that make this gun so interesting. Number 1, it's got a 4.5-inch barrel, so it's already got a longer barrel, allowing for a little bit more accuracy out of the gate, right? You can see this receiver up here is kind of ported right here. That's just keeping everything light. It's keeping the weight down on this gun. You don't really need a heavy gun with the 22 LR, right? Because you don't need it to be taking up a lot of that recoil or anything like that. So the lighter, just a little bit easier to maneuver. The grip style down here is a 1911 style. It does have these panels. It does have front and back checkering, so it's a very positive grip. Definitely not meant for concealed carry or anything like that. This is pretty much a target specific gun, I'd say. It does have a full Picatinny rail up here on top, which is awesome because you can throw your red dots or whatever. And the slide, this is not a slide, the whole thing's not moving. This is a receiver that's being set in place. The only part that's moving is this cylindrical bolt back here. So that's the only actual part that's moving. So when you have a sight right here, that thing's staying in place. You can stay on target, and the sights are staying fixed, right? So now this does have a 10-round mag, just like the others, but this one has this little circle style thing, and it's a pain. I hate this. I've pinched my finger with it so many times. I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's not that bad, but in relation to the other two, they are much, much easier to deal with and to maneuver. One thing I do like about the mag that's specific to this gun is watch when I hit this mag release button. See how that mag completely drops out of the gun? That's so if you're shooting and you're trying to be fast and you want to reload, you just drop that to the ground and reload it, and you don't have like one of those mags that just kind of drops halfway out of the gun and you end up having an attack reload. The safety is ambidextrous on this. I think on the base Ruger Mark IV, it's only on one side, but you can flip it really easily. This one does have the ambidextrous safety though. The sights up here on top, if you don't want to throw on a red dot, they are target sights. They do have a little bit of adjustability. I like the target sights because they're fully blacked out, right? So you just make that line, you cut your target in half, and you've got a little bit more precision than lining up 3 dots. And of course, with this being a target gun, the trigger is going to be, a little bit crisper for sure. So it's got a light take up to that wall, and then once you're on that wall, it's going to break extremely clean and easily. One of the reasons target shooters like this gun is because there are a lot of aftermarket parts for it. There are a ton of different triggers out there, so you can tune that trigger exactly how you want. You can obviously throw a suppressor on this thing, switch out the grips, whatever you want to do, throw on a red dot, and this thing really becomes a fun gun to shoot at that point. And as I mentioned, there is no slide to worry about manipulating. All it is just this back cylindrical bolt, so you just pull back on that, and it locks back in place really easily. And it keeps your sight picture locked in for your follow-up shots. Now, one of the biggest claim to fames with the Mark IV is how easy this thing is to take down. Drop out your mag, make sure this thing is on safe, and then there is this button just right here on back. Push that button in, and the entire top receiver comes apart, take out the bolt, and it's that easy to clean and take care of. If you know anything about the older generations of this gun, they were a nightmare to take down and clean, so they made a really big adjustment to this one. I think that's been a huge improvement. So as I mentioned, this one's coming in at number 1, but especially number 1 for those shooters who are a little bit more advanced and want a fun target shooting 22 LR handgun. This Mark IV Light Edition specifically is coming in at $475 here at TNT Guns, and there are a couple different options. I think you can get them all the way as low as like I don't know, $325 or something, and you can get them a little bit higher than this as well. MSRP, I want to say, is in the 500s, so it's a little bit more pricey of a gun, but as I mentioned, I think it's a step up in terms of what you can expect, especially if you're looking for a good target gun. So anyways, that is my roundup. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If so, please hit that thumbs up button, share the video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts on the best 22 LR handguns, and until next time, thanks so much for watching. See you next time on Greenlight Shooting.